Welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I'm Kelly Noonan-Gorse, and every week I speak to the leading doctors, healers, spiritual teachers, and scientists to find out what is truly possible when it comes to healing. I also interview real people with extraordinary healing stories. My philosophy is, what's possible for one is possible for all. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful journey of remembering our divine nature and tapping into the truths that shall set us free. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Welcome for the first time, if this is your first time here, and welcome back if you've been a long-time listener and follower of Heal. I'm so excited for my friend to be here finally after many years in studio with me, Koya Webb. Koya Webb is a spirit-led lifestyle entrepreneur specializing in holistic well-being. Known as a transformational specialist, she encourages sustainable lifestyle changes that maximize your ability to cultivate self-love, reverse life-threatening conditions, and experience optimal health through her lifestyle design method. Koya's yoga school and Get Loved Up community of teachers inspire millions worldwide to practice more self-care, social justice, and sustainable living. She is a highly regarded expert and editorial contributor with media outlets nationwide. Koya has appeared on NBC, CBS, The Steve Harvey Show, E! Entertainment, and Home and Family, and has worked with a roster of celebrity clients. Her mission is to inspire optimal health and well-being worldwide. With over 20 years, which you'd never tell by looking at this beautiful face, of experience in personal and professional development, Koya brings a unique perspective and deep knowledge to her community. Welcome.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. I was just like, oh, just cut it in half.
I know. No, it just rolls off the tongue. There's so many beautiful things to share.
Thank you. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Thank you.
So we're both going to be on stage with our dear friend Anthony William tomorrow at his unveiling of his smoothie with Erewhon. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun. I mean, Anthony Williams, he's doing so much to uplift and help the community heal. And so I'm just so inspired, and you're doing so much. So it just feels great to be in good company. It's not always easy, but we're, leading everyone forward in that direction, and I think it is making a huge impact.
Yeah. And you remind me where you grew up? You went to Agape, right?
Yeah, I went to Agape for some years when I was here, but I grew up in Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember back. So I interviewed you for the Heal Summit that we did with Hay House right after Heal came out, and I think best place to start, because that wasn't available to everybody, and I just want everybody to have access to you and know what you offer. But I think we start with your story. What led you to do the work that you do today?
I love that. And recently I feel like I've been, even in my bio, been putting spirit-led, because spirit led me. And I feel like spirit is something that's available to all of us if we tap in. And I guess I was born with the knowledge, but then we get so many distractions that take us away. And I truly believe my purpose that I'm living out now has always been there. And it's just about me, get rid of all the distractions, getting rid of all the distractions, all of the trauma and the things that I've been through that are also distractions, to live my purpose, and help others live theirs.
So I remember you, how has your work evolved? Because I remember you shared the story of your past, which you're just qualifying as a distraction now? Or,
I mean, there were definitely some distractions in the past, but growing up as a Southern girl in Humboldt, Tennessee, was very small beginnings. But I love the fact that we were connected to nature. And I love that my mom would take us outside to talk to the trees. And I think at a young age, making mud pies and talking to trees, honestly, that connection with nature, I'm so grateful for it. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, because it helped me tap in. And then even when I got away away from that, you know, as you grow up, I came back to it. So I just want to express so much gratitude, because some of us, we go through so much trauma with our parents, and sometimes we forget like how incredible they are because we want them to be perfect. And so I'm in a season of my life where I really want to honor my parents and my grandparents and my ancestors for like all of the work that they did so that I could sit here in privilege and shine and travel the world doing what I love, because most of them didn't have that opportunity. So growing up there was fun. I used to run to catch the bus, and that led to a track and field scholarship, and I was grateful for that. But in track and fields, when I got injured, I had a stress fracture in my back, and I was depressed. I experienced my first bout of depression because I put all my eggs in one basket. And I was like, well, if I can't run track, what can I do? And the counselor said I should try yoga. And being a Southern Baptist girl, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then the counselor was like, no, it's just stretching. It's fine. So I went in the class. I felt completely uncomfortable, could not touch my toes, tight athlete. I'm just like, I do not belong here. The only brown girl in the class. I was just like, I do not feel it. And I stick out a little sore thumb. And this is not bringing me bliss. Yeah. This is painful. How are they getting those legs in those positions? I can't do that. And so that's how I started. But the teacher came to me and she told me to breathe. She just said, and when I took that breath with her, I felt these chills in my body, which are the same chills I felt when I felt like I connected with the divine. I remember asking my parents, when should I get baptized? You know, because that's what we did in my religion. They were like, you'll know. I was like, well, how will I know? You'll just know. And so I remember one day I was in service and I felt these chills after, you know, the minister said something. I was like, oh, that must be it, because I had never felt that. It was like orgasmic, now that I know what an orgasm is. You know, that's what it felt like. And I was like, ooh, you know, I didn't know at that young age, but I was just like, I felt that intense feeling throughout my body. And then I was just like, okay, I think it's time. And so when I took the breath and I felt that feeling, that was my sign, like, this is good. You know, until this day, like I just said that and I got full body chills. I'm like, this is good. Yes. And so that was just like my first connection into diving deeper into what I identified in my religion as connection to the Trinity, right? Connection to Spirit, to Holy Spirit that's here, I feel like, to divinely guide us on our path. And so when I connected, I was like, all right, I'm going to stay here in this painful yoga class because Spirit said, stay, this is good. So I stayed, and after a year of pain and tears, and I ended up doing water therapy and bike therapy, I healed, and I went on to rank 13th in the nation in the heptathlon, brought my track team to their first women's conference title, and moved to California to train at the Olympic Training Center. I didn't get there because I got injured again, but that's what kind of led me to the West.
And based on that experience, I mean, often, like, sometimes we get an injury and we say, you know, the universe was knocking at our, whispering and then tapping on the shoulder and telling us, like, you're on the wrong path, or you're on the right path, but you got to slow down and look left, or whatever it is. Like, that feels to me too, that was Spirit led. Every time you got an injury, that led you to yoga, the breath, the chills.
Exactly, because a lot of times we don't know when we're on the wrong path until we get a wake-up call, right? We're like, it doesn't feel great, but it doesn't feel terrible, you know? And so we're just rolling along. And I realized that, you know, me moving out and me saying, like, I want to do this, I wasn't listening to my body. I was pushing myself way too hard. And a lot of times when we feel like, okay, we got to do this, we're not surrendering to divine guidance. We're like, all right, I got the sign, so I'm going, and I'm going hard. But I've now realized it's not about going as hard as you can go. It's about being intentional. It's about being mindful. And it's about going at a pace that is suited for you, right? Some people move fast, some people move slow, some people are in the middle, but you have to move in a place that suits you. And so when I went again, like, not taking care of myself, not nurturing my body, just going as hard as I could to prove myself, I pulled my hamstring. And then when I pulled my hamstring, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to yoga because yoga's my best friend. Yoga healed me, even though I was like, peace yoga, thanks. I went back, and the second time I was like, wow, you know, what's so magical about yoga? And I started doing the deeper work, and I decided to get certified. And then when I got certified, I was like, oh my goodness, this is life-changing and everyone should know about it. And I just started teaching yoga, and then I started my own yoga school eventually after years, and now I've been, teaching holistic health and wellness that led me to becoming vegan. I've been vegan for 18 years now and studying all of these health modalities, and I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper into well-being and healing and holistic health, and I love it and I'm passionate about it. And I feel like even as a young girl, I would look at like the natural healing books on my parents' shelf, and I would always gravitate towards that. So I feel like this is in alignment with my true purpose.
Yeah. And it seems like you're really good with business too. Where does your business sense come from? Because I know a lot of like healers or people and like they don't cross over.
Yeah. I think it's because like, growing up, I definitely feel like my dad is definitely, he's an engineer. And so he was kind of like a workaholic growing up, always worked. And then my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom, and she called it, what did she call it? She said, I'm a home engineer. Yeah, she said, I'm a home engineer. My mom was a domestic engineer. And she got her master's so I feel like I've always had a quest for knowledge and education. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, if you have a quest for knowledge and education, you're going to do well, because it's really about knowing your audience. It's about knowing whatever systems you want to use, and it's about bringing valuable information to your people. And that's an incredible entrepreneur. If it's just about other things, then you're going to get exhausted, tired, burnt out, which I've been burnt out before when I've been misaligned. But I feel like the reason I'm a great entrepreneur is because I really care about people, and I'm willing to do the work and the research it takes to be good at what I do. Yeah.
And do you believe that you had to get burnt out to deepen your work as a teacher, to like have that life experience?
I don't feel like I have to have negative things happen to get positive things. I'm not in that camp. I do believe sometimes when we're misaligned, negative, it's just like cause and effect, right? If you push this, it's going to roll. If you don't push it and you want it to roll, it's going to stay still, right? So I think in life, we're going along this path, right? And different things happen that shift us in different ways. But I don't feel like there's a destined, like, okay, in your life, this is going to happen. I do feel like we have free will. And I do feel like we are actually co-creating our experiences with everyone else in the world right now. And so I don't feel like there's a scroll with this is what's going to happen in my life sitting out somewhere. I think there's a lot of potentials and possibilities. And being an intuitive and tapping in, like I've seen multiple possibilities for my life, and I honestly believe we get to choose.
Yeah, I agree. You told me a story about a friend of yours, and it stuck with me because and maybe you could talk about it again, or maybe there's new stories you want to share, but it was about a friend that was dealing with cancer, and he was a runner, and he was like the pillar of health. There's just no way that he should have gotten cancer, and he was in the hospital bed. I should probably let you tell the story because it was 5 years ago, but you got this hit because he was doing everything right and there was a missing piece, and he's like, God, why am I in this position? And you got this like intuitive hit that maybe there was someone he needed to forgive. Is that the right story?
It was the right story. You're talking about Nate the Great. And I actually just talked to him a couple days ago, and we're still very close. But we've moved different places. We're different places in the world now. That I moved to Atlanta, and then he moved with his family. And but our relationship is still strong because we've been through so much. I mean, going through and healing from the big C is not small work. It's big work. So anyone listening that's been through that, congratulations, because some people don't make it, and I was scared that he wasn't going to make it. And so when I was looking up all the supplements and the herbs and all the Louise Hay, this for this, and, all the energetics, like all the things, how we nerd out.
Yeah.
So I was like looking up all the things. But what I realized is that we're all intuitive, right? And so some of us are tapped in at different levels. And so what's good about doing the research is that you're aligning yourself to move out all the other distractions and focusing on healing, right? So I'm looking up all these things. I'm spending time with him, and it came through that a lot of times, and now I've seen it in multiple people, and I actually mentioned to them, do you have any deep-seated resentment? So it was specifically resentment. And resentment is maybe someone you really love and they really harmed you deep, intentionally or unintentionally, and you hold on to it energetically, and it can happen anywhere in the body. And so that was the hit. And then the healing modality came through, which has come through in other ways for different people. But in that moment, it came through that he should see this person on a stage and see good things happening to them and forgive them. And so it was super clear. Wow. And so I could see it. And I told him to visualize it and forgive. And we did it over and over and over again. And that was a huge part of his healing. And it was magical.
Wow. Yeah, I remember, as you saying, resentment. Joan Borisenko was one of the experts in HEAL, and she said the same thing. She's like, in my clinic, because she's been doing holistic healing, guiding people through as a doctor for decades. And she said, when it comes to cancer, the people who didn't heal, she's like, almost 100% of the time, they were always holding on to some sort of regret or resentment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really important because I believe, and I know you do too, in like energetics and the energies that are in our body, in our astral field, and everything matters, and so I like to help people, and I'll do this tomorrow at Anthony's event, but just really tune in to their energetic field, tune in even to the energetic field of others, because that's where the healing or sometimes harm can happen. And so when you're aware of your energetic field, you get that, gut feeling, or you get like your throat, is stuck, which you're really frustrated. You want to say something, but it's stuck. Like that is energy, right? Or when you yell or cry and you suddenly feel better, that's energy. And so I love teaching people how energy works in the body, and it's different for everybody. So that's what makes it fun and unique. And so when we talk about deep-seated resentment, you really have to go on to a lot of forgiveness work, a lot of journaling work, a lot of somatics. There's so many things you can do to work with resentment, but I've seen so many people work with the resentment and get through. And so I, to this day, still recommend forgiveness work and looking into it, and also visualization to remove negative energy that has like placed itself in the body, because it's only there to keep you safe. Totally. And our body just wants to keep us safe. And sometimes we feel like our body's attacking us, but it's actually our body trying to keep us safe.
Yeah, totally. It's our greatest ally.
Yeah.
And speaking to us in a way that sometimes we just don't understand. But
exactly.
It's always positive. Or protective.
Yeah, exactly. Because it might feel negative, but it's protective. And I love that you said that, though, because a lot of times we feel like, why do I have this gas? Why do I have this cough? Why do I have this headache? But it's our body speaking to us, right? It's this language that once we learn to understand it, we're like, oh, I have a headache. I need to grab a glass of water. Oh, I have a headache, or maybe I need some sleep. And we know this as like when we have babies, we don't see their crying or their fever as like something's wrong. Something's wrong with them. We say, oh, we need to serve them in some type of way. They have a need.
Met.
Exactly. They need some milk. They need some sleep. And we have to treat ourselves the same way. We need to nurture ourselves as if we were children. And a lot of times we just we got to be an adult. We got to be strong. We can't cry. We can't fuss. We can't pout. And actually, I just have rage sessions at my house sometimes. It's just like, all right, I just hit the gong and we do somatic release, and then we do sound healing. But it's like giving you the full spectrum of emotions to release some of the things that are bottled up inside. And I think it's really healthy.
Totally.
Kids got it right. Children have it right. Cry, yell, scream,
Yeah, get
throw
it
a tantrum. It's like, don't throw that tantrum. But I'm like, no, throw the tantrum.
Yeah, totally.
Get that energy out of your body.
Right. And it's our job as parents, or attempting to be conscious parents, to hold space, reflect back to them. And then the teaching moments come later when their nervous system is back in regulation, but have them get it all out.
Yeah.
Oh, it ain't pretty and it ain't easy, but it's healthy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forgiveness is such a big one. And I find I do a lot of, it starts with intellectual, I can spiritual bypassing, I can analyze a lot, but if I'm not dropping down into my heart and doing actual feeling, sitting in the feeling and the emotion, and sitting in the discomfort, feeling, reflecting on what that feels like, breathing through it, releasing it through a rage fest, or screaming in my car or crying, whatever that release needs to happen. I feel like a lot of people do the intellectual forgiving work, but then it's still stuck in the body.
Right.
So talk more, about how you would what kind of modalities help you to, or what are the modalities that you recommend to clients to remove stuck past stuff that maybe think they've done the work with, that they're a therapist or a shaman or whoever, but then it's like this pattern is still in the body.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question, because that's what my next book and lifestyle design is all about. You know, Get Loved Up was about self-love and holistic health and well-being. And also, you know, for those that were interested in becoming a yoga teacher. And now that I've gotten even more knowledge, it's like I really want to teach people how to heal and how to rebuild themselves so that they can thrive. And so I really break it down into like 6 areas of well-being. And spiritually, I think it's important to journal and write. And so I do a couple different things, but one of my favorite things is transformational letter writing. So you write exactly how you feel with all your choice words and whatever toxic, dark things you have to say. And then you give yourself an apology. Like you apologize like on behalf of the other person. Because a lot of times people don't know the harm that they cause because they're dealing with their own stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in that is the giving the apology is written as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It could be written. It could be verbal as well if someone resonates more with verbal, but written is really powerful. But it could be verbal. You could say how you feel out loud, and then you can give yourself a verbal apology back as well.
And then what do? Burn the letter?
I mean, you can burn it. Like I've had like rituals and full moon ceremonies and new moon ceremonies we actually burn, but you don't have to. Like I have them in my phone. Like I have like lots of transformational letters in my phone.
So it's just a process for you to constantly move stuff out of your system.
Exactly.
And not hold on to anything.
Exactly. Because then you can come to that person in love. Because what happens when someone harms us, if we don't process that more, you know, hurt people, right? You're going to harm them back because you feel like they were disrespectful or they don't respect whatever. So it's going to be like an edge, right, in the relationship. But if you process, even if they didn't process, you're going to come back to that relationship in love. And you might end it, but you'll have healthy boundaries, but it won't be out of fear or malice because you already gave yourself an apology. You already said, you know what, I'm sorry that I hurt you, Kelly. I'm actually not well, and just please forgive me. You know, you say, you know, could say the Ho'oponopono, like, and you ask for the apology. And so when you come back, you're able to communicate, you're able to set your healthy boundaries. And if you move forward, you know what you want. And I have a whole process to like re-enter a relationship where you felt harmed. But you can also decide, I want no contact. And some people, maybe the person transitioned and they don't have an opportunity to have any contact with them. So this can be done with your energetics only. You don't need anyone else to do the energy work of forgiveness.
And what I find is, because we're all connected, we're all one, this is an illusion of separation. Obviously there's a field that seems empty out here, but it's like you can think of someone and then, you know, 2 seconds later, my phone buzzes and that person. So it's like, oh, wow, wavelength. We're in communicado. I often find when I do work that powerful, it shifts the energy of the other person. Not to save the relationship or not to do, but there's something that shifted and even they drop their guard. Yeah. And then maybe they actually come back and actually do the apology or whatever it is. It's pretty powerful. Like,
yeah, it's so powerful.
Be the change you wish to see in the world, because when you change, literally the organization of the reality around you changes. Exactly.
Like I've had times where I've done the transformational letter writing and then the person texts me the next day, like, Koya, you know what, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh my God, it works. Exactly. I remember the first time I was trying, and now I don't have any expectations because I feel like after I was like, okay, every time it should work like that, but it doesn't. You know,
like looking at your phone when they
exactly. When are they going to text? When am I going to get that
then
email?
The resentment comes back.
Why is this person still? You know, but it's like, no, it's out. You don't have any expectations. When you do this exercise, you just release, let go, and surrender, and you've already given yourself what you need. And so what you have to do is not go back into a toxic relationship or your toxic patterning of dealing with any type of abuse or any type of neglect. And also teaching and learning how to communicate, because a lot of times we get harmed and we are not even communicating we've been harmed, and so harm continues, and maybe even unintentional harm, because I know some psychotic people do things on purpose, but a lot of times we're harming each other and we don't know.
We're oblivious.
We're oblivious. We don't have a clue, and it could be good people, and that happens all the time.
Yeah. Or people are getting triggered and they have this whole lens and story that we're oblivious to, so we couldn't even know that we would harm it because we're not aware of the trauma or the belief system that is driving their boat.
Yeah, exactly. And so I really am a huge proponent of communication. You got to feel it to heal it. Don't be afraid to tell someone, hey, this really hurt me. And it doesn't mean you have to accept their apology. It doesn't mean you have to, maybe they won't even respond and you have to deal with that, But it's a whole process of just being okay with knowing that at the end of the day, you just have you that you're responsible for. And you're responsible for your emotions and your process. And when you take that radical responsibility, then you actually become more powerful. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we give our power away because we're looking for you to be kind to me. But I've experienced so many microaggressions and so much oppression over the years, and so many stories and things we're even witnessing now in humanity that breaks my heart, that I realize that I am responsible, and I can't put it on anybody else. We all have to stand up for ourselves and also stand up for other people.
Yeah.
And if we don't, then, the world starts to crumble because we're all connected, and so my goal is just to do as much as I can to share the knowledge I've gained over the years so that I can be well and then others can be well too.
Yeah. It's so tough because we're presented with so much more information than we've ever have had access to.
Yeah.
And even the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, that's, these are kind of religious feuds and cultural feuds that have been going on for centuries, and everyone that it's so hard to know that fine line of I don't know. To me, I'm just at a loss because I have to, because I'm so sensitive, just remove myself. That's what I've done. And it's that fine line of, taking responsibility, but also you got to protect yourself from your own psyche of it's so overwhelming. What can I do? Do you know what I'm saying? How do you guide someone through it stresses me out. I can't handle looking at the violence of war. I just can't. Yet I don't want to be ignorant and turn my back to something that's going on in the world that may need voices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so hard.
I always tell people, do what you can. If you're frustrated, it means you should do more. When you're doing everything you can do, that frustration actually starts to release. Because remember, the frustration is our body talking to us. So when I'm just frustrated, I'm going live. I'm talking about how I feel. And I just did that maybe a week or two ago, because I was literally in tears. I was be honest about how you feel, because you ain't happy all the time. Yeah. So show your tears and show your humanity. So I think it's important to show our humanity. No, we don't have all the answers. No, our tears are not going to save the world, but it's a start. Being honest about how we feel is a start. And even when that feeling is just what you said, I just don't know what to do. And that's okay. I think we feel like we have to have it all figured out, but we don't. It's just doing what we can, even if it's sharing, even if it's writing, even if it's whatever you feel intuitively, not what someone said you should do, but you feel inside, and ask yourself, what should I do? And that what you should do could be just taking care of yourself and your family and making sure they're well. It could be taking care of your community, because I truly believe the better we take care of ourselves and our families and our community, that affects the entire world. We are in this position because of manipulation and control and power and all that other stuff. And it's not just a war between the two people or groups that you mentioned. It's happening all over the world. We are trying to control other people to maintain power. And I say we because I'm a part of the problem and I'm also a part of the solution. And that's how much responsibility I take. But I also remove and say, okay, how can I step back and mirror this responsibility in my relationships at home and a local level? And I think when we find those solutions, what relationship in your family are you battling? That gives us the wisdom on how to tackle bigger things, right? And it's communication. It's first of all, I don't know, stop killing people. If we can't stop killing people, it's gonna be hard, because when there's so much bloodshed, the rage level is so high that people are in survival state. You cannot make executive decisions, as you know, in survival state. And so I understand the rage. I understand why people are mad, and I understand. And I'm so, me and my fiance Darren were there last year and saw the beauty and saw the love and saw, people trying to bring those specific groups together. But then to see how when war broke out, stories changed and things were different was quite heartbreaking, but understandable. Yeah. Understandable, because when people are hurt again, and when people are fighting for their families and their children and things like that, you're not in executive state. You can't make those decisions. So I am a proponent for nonviolence, non-killing. I love guns, but I would like to see all the guns removed from the earth. And I don't think it's necessary because of the amount of harm. And even the weapons of mass destruction. Why? Yeah. If you don't have intentions to like wipe people out, why do we have them? Yeah. You know, so it's tough because I don't have the answers, but I can just be honest about how I feel. And I think being honest is the first step. And then taking those steps of, let's talk about, is there a way we can find solution that doesn't involve putting one group over the other? Yeah.
For sure.
Like,
I mean, that clearly is perpetuating the problem.
Yeah.
The right and the wrong.
Exactly.
And then there's certain chapters and phases and seasons of your life where like, I'm just personally overwhelmed with just my local level. My familial level, my personal, what like my little sphere is overwhelming right now. So it's like, I can't possibly take that on. And there's 8 billion people, and it's, and like you said, it's a macrocosm. There's an energy in the collective that's being played out in that region, that's being played out in politics, it's all the same energy battle
of control
that is shifting, but that as the frequency is rising, it's agitating everything into, on a very sad and violent level.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a war on our well-being.
Yeah.
Straight up war. I mean, most of the things we have presented to us and eat are absolutely toxic, are absolutely, we know, causing a lot of the deaths and things we're experiencing. And it's right there, killing us, killing our children. And that's happening too.
Yeah.
We can talk about that and how that's just disgusting. And people that feel like they're doing the right things are literally killing themselves and their families. And it's hard because I grew up unaware of all of the toxins and poisons in my home, in my food, in my clothes, like all around, and that's what I love about our friend Anthony Williams, because he's really exposing, and many, many other people's, but he's the closest person that I feel they're really tackling it on a big level. Yeah. And I feel like it's so important, and we have to scream it from the mountaintop until we change, because we do vote with our dollars. And the less we support that toxic feeding of ourselves and our families, the more we'll get closer to nature. And the closer we are to nature, which, back to your original question, what can people do? The closer you are to nature, the closer we are to natural order, the better we're going to feel, the more we're going to heal, the more we'll be able to forgive. We start to feel the energy. But when we numb ourselves, we actually normalize our pain. We normalize abuse. We normalize like all these things that we shouldn't. I remember I went through like 2 weeks of like this healing work, and I put my phone to my ear and I could feel the electromagnetic energy. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was like, okay, was it just me? And I like have my friends that they're like, we don't feel anything. I was like, okay, I think I just cleansed a little bit too much. I was like, I do not want to feel the radiation waves from my phone. Someone bring me something toxic, because I was so,
give me a cracker.
I was so frightened because I could feel that deeply. And I feel like it's so important though, just to know. And that's why I love doing the studies of, a lot of people call it like biohacking, but people do it for different reasons. But for me, really studying how energy works is really important, because we're energetic beings. And so when a person is healing, doing the transformational letter writing, spending time in nature, grounding, doing like neuroemotional work, and, letting your feelings out is important. Exercising, moving the body, doing somatic movement, eating things that are healing and cleansing and nourishing, and even socializing. Like, one of the things I recommend is just like go out with your friends, talk to someone, because a lot of times like when I get really bad, I isolate, and I just want to be by myself. And a lot of people are going through like a lot of economic struggle right now. And so knowing how to do things that can help when you might not have a lot of money in the bank, but you have love and you have community and ways that you can feel abundance, whether you have a lot of money in the bank or a little money. So those are some of the things that I talk about, and I'll be sharing in my new book on how we can be well in a very toxic time.
And I think, the nervous system, we're all in this like chronic fight or flight state, stress state. And so the work that's kind of been coming up for me is like, how do I find safety and security internally? And like, obviously it's a lot to do with spirituality and our divine connection and having a bigger picture of like why we're here, why we chose to be here, and trust in that, the universe is for you, God is for you, life is, for you, never against you. So, the nervous system toggles if we feel unsafe, we're in fight or flight. And so most of us are feeling unsafe all the time. And these conflicts that are happening in our country and abroad, they're making groups, they're dividing us and pitting us against each other. And then the end result is that we're not feeling safe. And so how do we find safety within ourselves that is not attached to economics, that is not attached to violence around us, and then your nervous system and I think it is coming back to nature. And I think it is when we remove the processed chemicals and when we start to cultivate awareness and we have these practices to move stuck energy and emotion out of our system and heal trauma that's stuck in our system and learn to tap into the breath and move our body to expand and get everything flowing, then we like work these tuning forks. So we have to, I think what you teach is how to optimize the tuning fork so that your divine connection is stronger as your system is divine, beautifully designed human body, incredible intelligent system is clear. The signal to the divine is clear. The remembrance of your wholeness and innate divinity is clear. And that's when we can really feel safety.
Absolutely. And I like to call that divine alignment. When you have divine alignment, you're like, I am love, I am peace, I am whole, I am safe. And that is the truth in this moment. So you bring yourself back to the present moment, because when you're looking at stuff outside you, you're looking at the past, or maybe you're worried about the future. But when you bring yourself back to the present, then you bring yourself back into divine alignment. And then from divine alignment, you can get the divine downloads of what you should do next, right? But if you're doing things out of fear, or if you're doing things, fear of the past or fear of the future, you're not in divine alignment, right? You're in this lower vibrational state of fear, worry, doubt, shame. And that can lead you in other ways that could be even more painful, exhausting, bad for the body, depressed. I've, just finished a 2-year bout of high functioning depression because I was misaligned in many areas of my life. And during the pandemic, I was like, okay, I got to keep my team of 21 people together. And I didn't lose one person, and I was able to, but I worked so hard, and I took a lot of jobs that weren't aligned, and I hired a lot of people that weren't the best for my company, and trying to make sure everyone was good. And it took a toll on me, and so sometimes when you're functioning out of fear, even when you have a good heart, it doesn't end up in the way you think that it should, because it's still misaligned.
Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like there's this pressure on us that we're supposed to be these perfect, we're helping people in a certain capacity. I mean, you do it for a living, I do it kind of by the information that I'm sharing, but there's this expectation that some of us have, whether it's imposter syndrome or the unrealistic expectation of social media, but it's like that we have to be perfect, and like, because we have all this information and knowledge and wisdom, and we have healed so much, and we have all these tools, that high functioning depression or injury or divorce or all these things shouldn't happen, right? Or I shouldn't eat. I said cracker earlier because I keep like,
you want a cracker?
I want crackers.
Cracker.
I've been like, my comfort food is like cheese and crackers, and it's so funny. And I eat like clean sources of cheese, and I know you're vegan, so I hope I'm not offending you, but
I like cheese too, vegan cheese.
Okay.
That I make myself, preferably.
That's amazing. But and I try to get like healthier versions of crackers with only like 4 ingredients. But what I learned is I've caught myself beating myself up because a lot of social media followers are like, please share what you eat on the daily. And I'm like, I've been stressed and like, I'm dealing with a lot. Like, you don't want to know what I eat, I'm just like manage.
Because when you know what I eat, you're going to rip me apart.
Yeah.
Because I'm not perfect.
I'm not
like
perfect.
You want me to be.
And who I never signed up to be perfect.
Yeah.
I've made a documentary, but like, I know, but that being said, I do encourage wellness, and I know enough that like, I just don't want to be a bad example, but I can be a bad example to myself. But then in the reflection, I was like, oh, my inner child, the aha that I had was, I'm going through a very overwhelming time. Mm-hmm. I felt safe in certain ways in a child, like when I came home from kindergarten or when I came home, and my mom always had cheese and crackers for me. And like, I'm going to cheese and crackers to like comfort my little inner child, you know? And I was like, okay, I don't need to beat myself up for the crackers,
Yeah.
But it's just, there's reasons for everything.
Yeah.
But back to the clarity of this beautiful instrument, and as we heal and we remove the distractions, we remove the interference we're putting in our body via toxins, bad food, stress, misaligned relationships, misaligned careers. Once we start to wake up to all those things and feel better and do yoga, and in your case, and like your body feels better, you start to make better decisions, you just become aware of so much more. So the people that are more susceptible to being divided, getting incited to react so much, and getting into this othering and canceling and right and wrong battle, there's just too many distractions and distortions in their instrument and field, and it's just an awareness problem. But I think that the world is kind of putting this pressure, I don't know if it's frequency thing that's rising, but it's the pressure is cooking, the water is boiling, and we're kind of being forced to wake up.
Yeah. And awareness doesn't mean perfection. I think the one thing, and I always try to say, because I do a lot of guidance on optimal living, but I always have to put in the caveat, does not mean perfection. Even though we're putting these things and stacking our cards in our favor, it's because things are so stacked outside of our favor, right? Yeah. So we're just like literally the war on our well-being. We're literally just trying to balance the playing field. Yeah. So don't think just because you've stacked 50 things that are good for you, you're good. Yeah. Because there's 60 things that might be toxic coming into your world, whether it be indirectly in your world or indirectly or whatever. And so I tell, because some people feel like, oh, if I can't be perfect, I'm just going to give up. Or I don't want to show, like I said, because if I show, you're going to think that, I'm not perfect. Well, that's the truth. The truth is, and that's been my hardest thing as a leader, is sharing my imperfections, sharing that I go through depression, sharing that, the part that I know when people see, they're like, oh, well, maybe Koya isn't so great after all because it did. Oh yeah, I make mistakes. And I'm a flawed human being, and I'm not perfect, and I don't want to be perfect. So everybody expecting me to be perfect cannot follow me and not talk to me and not be my friend, because I don't need that type of energy in my life. It's actually going to make me unwell. I need people where if I want to eat cheese and crackers, I can eat cheese and crackers, whether they're vegan or not. I mean, I'm all vegan, but living in a way where we can't be human and we can't make mistakes is really, really hard. And even though I live a lifestyle that is, because of my choice, like I feel like optimal, it ain't perfect. And I don't ever try to make myself perfect, right? Sometimes I have to, I'm like, okay, Koya, you've been slipping on that for a minute, so go ahead and reel it back and like go to the gym, or go ahead and stop eating that much processed food because you're breaking out. Because, so it's different when you say, I'm going to do what's best for me, and I'm going to let myself, occasionally do things that I know are not best for me, but maybe they're soothing me in some type of way.
Bringing me a little bit of joy.
Yeah.
That I need.
And it's a fine line, right? Yeah. But we know that from nature. We heard in The Lion King, life is all about a delicate balance. It's a delicate balance. It's harmony. It's not perfect, right? And I think if more people can give themselves permission to be flawed and still be loved, it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, we need that grace. We need that grace for ourselves. We need to nurture the inner child, as you said, and just realize that it's okay to be flawed, and it's okay to talk about your flaws, and it's okay to, you know, be vulnerable. And those, I just was going through a challenge one of my friends, Jade, had, and I was going through this deep reflection, and I realized, like, in my life, I've definitely been very vocal about my ups and downs, and people have left my life because of things I've said or done that didn't align with them, because I come from a really strict upbringing, right? And now I'm more like free-spirited, and also I'm vegan, and people got a lot to say about that. People feel judged when I sit down. I don't have to say anything. The fact that I'm not ordering meat pisses people off.
That's
okay
wild.
It's wild. I don't eat onions. You don't eat onions. I'm like, no, but I need to, because I need the quercetin, but no, I don't like them. It gives me gas, you know. But anyway, so it's like my being who I am, you know, it
Can trigger people.
can trigger people. And I like to look at myself like the sun. You know, it's there to light the world, but sometimes it's going to burn. Yeah. Right. And so I've learned to be okay with myself, to be okay with my flaws, to be okay with my mistakes, because that's what makes me human. And I don't think anybody is perfect, you know. And I think those people looking for people to be perfect, unfortunately, are just not well. And I love them too. But they're not going to be my best friends.
Yeah.
You know, because that's too hard.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I got to move. I got to be, you know, so.
Yeah, well, coherence.
Yeah.
But also, as you've done that work and, you know, loved up, and as I do more of that work of self-love and grace and, you know, unwinding this people-pleasing and perfection syndrome that I have, as I have that compassion and grace for myself and embrace my humanity, which is a work in progress, that's the only time I can be more compassionate, patient, and allow people to be themselves with more grace and compassion. Because when, like, the person that's, you know, offended that you don't eat meat, or, you know, is getting on you for not being perfect, and, like, you know, whatever that is, it's their own self-attack being projected at you.
Exactly.
You know?
Yep. And I think that there's so many worlds, like even in social media, this person did that, this, and it's just like, I realized when I was looking for a partner that, you know, being a part of those, like, how I value men, how I value women, I'm not going to take that, it was so toxic for me. I felt my nervous system was going off until I pulled all the way back, right? And started looking at things that were more like, no, relationships are hard. No, you're not looking for a perfect person. You're looking for someone that's willing to grow with you and willing to love you despite your flaws. And that's when I started to heal. I didn't start to heal when I was looking for the perfect man. That was still my trauma, thinking that's what I needed to be well. But no, I needed to accept my imperfections. No, I need to accept my imperfections, just like that.
Yeah.
Like, I can laugh at that. You know, it's like being perfect right now. We were talking about imperfections, right? Accept my imperfections. And accept, like you said, the imperfections of another, and see the beauty and not being perfect, and laughing about it and crying about it and yelling about it sometimes, and then apologizing. And then seeing how you become stronger and more connected when you're just being human. And I didn't know it until I experienced it. And it was really beautiful.
It's so true. And as I'm, like, you know, in my 40s, and you kind of step in, and, like, all I want to do now is just, like, be authentic and do the opposite of what I've been doing for 4 decades of, like, trying to please everybody and be a chameleon and be super diplomatic and all of these things. And what I'm realizing is that, you know, most of us come to relationships with masks because we're fearful that if we're not this person, that the other is we're going to be rejected, we're going to be abandoned, we're going to be left. And so, yes, like, to know all relationships take work, and to find that person who wants to do the work and grow with you. But until you accept your humanness, or as I'm saying you, I mean me, until I accept my humanness, I can't really drop the masks and show up authentically. And if I'm not showing up authentically, no relationship that I have is truly authentic. So you really do have to, I think, of course you can do certain deeper work with a partner, but you've got to get to a certain level where you're brave enough to be human in the relationship, so that you can see each other's humanity.
Yeah, and it's a spectrum, you know, because we're all constantly healing. And even once you get to a certain point, you know, like you said, with your person, you get to another point, and there's really not a perfect point to find a mate or a perfect point when you're with your mate. There's just this constant commitment to growth and evolution. And I try to tell people, because they're like, well, how long did you do your solo work before you actually found your person? I was like, I wasn't counting the days or the months, but it was a minute. Like my whole life, right? My whole life I was doing it. No, but it's like, it's, you know, I laugh, but it's serious because we get these questions, right? And I have so much compassion for them because I'm like, I can only guide you to the best and highest version of yourself. I can tell you my story to inspire you, which inspire means align you with spirit for me. But it's not going to necessarily yield the same results. You have to feel inside how much time you need when you're ready to even, you know, talking about relationships, date again. When you're talking about food, if you're like been really strict for a while, you can have to decide if you ever want to not be so strict. Some people want to live their whole life. You know, I was raw vegan for a moment, you know, and I can choose that at any time. I had juicing for a period of time. Like, so there's so many levels to it. So I try to get people away from specifics. When I started, I was like, okay, gotta do this, gotta do that, gotta, it's perfect. And I was like, okay, I need to calm down. You know, I could feel it, right? I could feel my tension in myself of trying to be perfect, right? And it was taking its toll on me. But when I relaxed, oh my goodness. And it does come with time and age and maturity. And when I realized that, man, my body still looks like it looks, and I've been eating all kinds of stuff. And I remember when I was into bodybuilding, and I was so strict. I mean, I eat no fat for years. Maybe I'd eat a half an avocado. I remember going and trying to write something for a specific magazine, and I was trying to use 2 bananas. They're like, no, you can only use a half a banana. I'm like, a half a freaking banana? What's that? I need the potassium and all the other nutrients in the banana. But when you get these rules, you're actually not listening to your intuition. And so I really encourage people to like get the templates. I'll give you templates. Other incredible people have given you templates, and then follow your intuition. Templates, intuition, templates, intuition. Bringing in information to inspire you, but then listen in. Because even when I was working with my friend, I was looking at all the things that people have put out there because I had never dealt with anything like this before. But then I was dropping into my intuition. So that's what I teach now more than anything, is just like, I'm just a guide. I am not like, I don't have all the answers for you. I only have the answers for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all intuition, and I have so much to say about this. The inspiration, in spirit, you're bringing in spirit. Respiration, you're re-spiriting yourself with the breath work is just so powerful. And then
we're doing some of that tomorrow too.
Yes, okay, good. And so I look at our friend medical medium Anthony William. I know people that have gotten upset with him for missing a diagnosis. I know that he tried to get taken down by this group of people that accused him for being responsible for someone's thing and experience. And I think the work now, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence and this distortion of our reality, and AI is so brilliant at efficiency and data and solutions and everything like that, but it's going to have the ability to alter our reality. And we are at a time where we need to learn from the masters, but then tune into our own intuition. So we've got to clear our instrument with coaches like you and guidance like you, to, with what we eat, with how we move, with our connection to nature, sleep, all of these things that will get our instrument into a more optimal place so that we can have discernment, be connected, and get clear signals of what is true for us, what resonates. When do we get those full body chills and that spirit says yes? And a lot of people, again, like looking to Anthony William, I love that he's not reading people anymore, because he's using the information from the spirit of compassion to then teach on the masses of the information he's getting. But because there's always going to be these distortions and other agendas and everything, it's like, take radical responsibility for your life. God is giving you the gifts. You have the ability with this instrument to tune into and align with and get feedback from what's true and highest and best good for you.
Yeah.
And so even, you know, just back to that relationship conversation, it doesn't matter what someone else's path. Like I know I have friends that are not married yet and still want to have kids, and we're getting mid-40s and people are getting nervous about their ovary function, and they're, you know, like the apps are bad. I don't know where to meet a guy. It's going to take a year once I meet him to get engaged, and then another year, and then kids. I'm like, there's no timeline.
Yeah.
Like you could set an intention in this moment right now, and in this evening meet the man, you know, your partner for life. Like it's just about intending. And trusting and like, you know, anyways, all to reinforce what you said, that there's no timeline, as everybody's on their own path for their soul, higher self knows what that timeline is and how it's going to unfold. And just like, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but
you said so many different things that like, first of all, anyone trying to take down anyone doing good work, God's work, Spirit's work, whatever you want to, it breaks my heart every single time, you know, because people aren't perfect, right? And I feel like a lot of people want people that are intuitive or healers or things like that. Oh, how can you even say you're a healer? Well, some people know Reiki, and some people know how to use energy to support other people, right? This is a real thing. It's scientifically proven. It works. Period. So it's sad that people that might not experience that attack people that do, because there is still no perfection. Nothing's perfect, right? And so it's sad because we actually need more people tapping into the power of energetics, and we need more collective healing and somatics and Reiki and things like that, because we are being toxic or toxified, right? At such a massive rate. And if we all start to tune in and tap in and we actually work with each other, it's actually good. But because people get ridiculed so bad when, okay, somebody didn't make it, or this person didn't, you said this and da-da-da-da, you know, it's like, first of all, we can't even discern our own divine download sometimes. So if someone else is doing it, it's just like, you have to trust the divine no matter what. And, you know, people would question like, oh, why do sometimes babies don't make it and things like that. We are energy. We're not. It's not just about our human experience. We all are going to expire someday. And when you get too caught up on your humanness, I think we miss the mark of our interconnectedness and the biggest of ourself, that is spirit. And in spirit, I am within you, and I'm within everyone in this room, and I'm within everyone all over the world.
That's listening.
Everywhere, all at once. I'm experiencing pain. I'm suffering. I'm crying. I'm experiencing marriage and divorce. Like, that is the energy that I will always be, period. I'm existing in this moment, in this body that looks like this, and y'all call me Koya. You know, so when you go to that level of awareness, I just like, first of all, it's hard to want to stay in your body. And you realize that it's precious. It's such a precious time. And some people get seconds. Some people, no, this started in the womb and didn't happen, which was my experience. Last March, we had a angel baby, you know, and it's okay. You know, it's sad and it hurts, but it's just part of this experiencing. The question is, what are you going to do with what you experienced? And how can that in some way bless your life? How can that in some way bless others? How can that in some way bless humanity, right? So we remove ourselves from our humanness, and that's how we come back into alignment. We come back to the breath, back to the inspiration. In my first book, I wrote a chapter on You're Not a Victim, You're a Creator. When I talked to you in the first show about, you know, sexual assault and other things. And it wasn't until I was like, yes, my body was victimized at certain times in my lifetime. But I am not those instances. I am spirit, right? And so whatever happens to me in this body now and for the rest of my life that I'm living in it, it's still, whenever I can come back to spirit, I can get through whatever happens, no matter what it is. And I feel like that is empowering. And that's when I talk to clients or people who are having terminal cancer or really sick, it's just like, that's where I have to bring them. And then someone's like, you're a death doula. I was like, don't want to do that in this lifetime. And I got a choice. We ain't doing that, you know.
Free will.
But also, my dad told me I was going to be a teacher. I'm not being a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. No, I mean, I think teaching is one of the most profound jobs in the world, and I am a teacher. Yeah. But, you know, you're the calling on your life is the calling on your life. So, I mean, I've already started speaking in that way. And then I'm starting to meet people who do that work, and I'm like, oh snap, what am I getting myself into? But it's about making peace, though. It is about making peace with the fact that our impermanence, you know, and the fact that we get this beautiful, small, sacred time. It's like that when you look back on your life. So what can we do to make the most of it?
I love it so much. And it's, as you're talking about it, like, you know, energetically, that's what holds this whole, there's a field, our energetic design imprint from our soul that's organizing the matter, you know, air quotes, into, but all these cells weren't here 7 years ago. Like, your body regenerates, like your stomach lining every 3 days, different. Yeah. So we have a whole new body. Like, this is a different, not a cell existed back in high school, you know, that exists today. And it's this energy that's keeping this thing, that is beautiful thing that is Koya Webb and Kelly, and it's just so wild to like think about it that way and know that you could, just like a snake, like shed those layers of skin and continue to just keep, you know, that energy up leveling, and your body's coming with you, you know.
And then also knowing
helping you
that you're still making imprints too, like when you think about a mother's womb and how she has, like, your grandmother had you in her womb, like, you know, you're like, wait, how does that work? And realizing that we all are making an imprint on the world while we're here. So we got a choice, like, what kind of imprint do we want to make? Do we feel like we can heal ourselves? Do we feel like we can heal others? Do we feel like we can make a positive impact in the world? That's the question I always bring people back, because we can argue. Yeah, we can fight. Yeah, we can try to control them. But at the end of the day, is that really going to get you the feeling that you want to feel? And I've realized that it never does. It never does, you know? And so I feel like some people, when they are people pleasing, like you and I both do, one thing that I'm learning is that I'm harming myself, right? Anytime I'm doing something out of alignment with my truth, I'm harming myself. And how can I get away from that? How can I turn it around? And I think if we daily ask ourselves that question, what am I doing that's out of alignment? And how can I, no guilt, no shame, like, darn it, I'm doing that. Okay. How can I, right? Because it's like, it's going to happen. It's part of it, right? Yeah. I feel like in the day there's darkness and there's light, like in 24 hours, you know, sometimes longer and shorter. But in the darkness, we rest, we recover, we regenerate, because things will happen in this human experience that break us down. And in the light, we shine and we thrive and we nurture ourselves, right? And then we go in these cycles, just like our cells, to regenerate, right? And so I just think the more we connect with nature, the more we understand how we heal, how we thrive. And it really goes back to, like, the cell, one little cell, one little.
Well, thank you. We could talk for days, and we will. But where can people find you and your work and join all the beautiful things that you offer?
KoyaWebb.com, my website, and on social media, Koya Webb, KoyaWebb. And, you know, those are the main places on social and my website. And I'll be coming out with something special in the world, a book next year, hopefully, fingers crossed. But this year, I'm actually, I don't know when this podcast is dropping, but I'm starting like a 12-week kind of lifestyle design group coaching cohort and membership where we can all do the work together. Cool. So you don't feel like you're alone. You know, you're in a safe space. Like some people were commenting all these kind of crazy things on my social media. And I was like, yeah, I don't agree with that, but this is a safe space. Go off, like go off. Because as long as you're not being disrespectful, like I don't like disrespect term, but if you're just voicing your opinion, and it's different than mine, I want to hear what you got to say. Yeah. And I think we need to have more spaces where people can share opposing opinions without being rejected or canceled. We just listen. And it helps stimulate our brain and growth and development, because if we're not willing to listen to people, how do we feel like we're going to stop a war? Yeah. I mean, seriously, if you can't listen to why are you wanting to kill innocent people and really understanding the core of where that comes from, then how do we stop it? But it also comes with understanding ourselves and the littlest things within ourselves that we can't stop. Like, how do we stop a war? How do you stop yourself from being a cracker?
It all comes back to crackers.
It all comes back to them cheese and crackers, you know? No, seriously though, like it's really like, sometimes when things are out of our control, we have to bring it back to ourselves and say, you just got to take it one day at a time and ask yourself, do you really want this? And why? What is it doing for you? Do we collectively want this? And why? And what is it doing? Because everything's a choice, right? And we start to look at like day and night and there's no good and bad, then we got to say, well, if we want to keep having war, and I say we because I'm a part of it, textile is paying for it, unfortunately, are we willing to deal with the consequences, which is very horrific? And, you know, I'm saying no, but I got to get more people to say no. We don't want to do this. And right now, we're not losing that war, you know? So I think it is up to all of us taking a certain level of responsibility, of personal reflection, and how do we say no to the things that aren't great for us and yes to the things that are, you know, on a personal level, on a family level, on a community level, more so than not. Yeah. Right? It's not about perfection, but when you're way out of balance, that's when massive things like war, like how can we pull it back before it goes too far, right? It's like people are arguing like, oh, you let them argue. Oh, now they're fighting. Now someone's bleeding. Okay. Yeah. So they're arguing, right? How about stop them when they're starting like, hey, what's going on? Let's talk about it, right? Because when they get to bloodshed, it's not really talking at that point. You're pulling and scraping and teachers might get hit. And, you know, it's like a different level of escalation. And so I think, you know, and I can see that on a personal level when I'm just, no, yeah, I'm going to have this or that. I'm fine. But then when I go a week and I'm having ice cream every day and like, you know, every like Impossible Burger and everything pounds, that I know, then I feel like crud and I feel like I don't want to get out of bed and then my mood drops down, you know? So I feel like there's levels, and I think not being hot and cold or just black and white, but realizing that everything's working together, every single thing. And when we tune in and start saying, okay, I'm not trying to be perfect, but let me push things in this direction because they've gone too far in that direction. We start to get closer to in alignment with love, in alignment with spirit, and in alignment with our well-being, which is what I'm all about.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's so difficult because you just have to try to understand the lens through which, you know, if it's a conflict, both sides are looking through, and it's if you're leaning towards, you know, justice for one side, you've got to really become curious and compassionate about why the other side is so convicted to their righteousness. And it's just so interesting. Like, I just like curiosity and compassion is
Have you seen Dune?
We're going to get through this. No.
I just watched Dune on the way over here, and Lord have mercy. I think it's so fascinating. I say Dune because I just watched it. But I'm going to actually course correct and say, I think every person in the world, like, should really look at, I don't even know which one I should say first, but I feel like when we look at how the world has been set up to control and manipulate, that's when we start looking through the lens of reality, right? And so like, I feel like people, when I watch Dune, I'll just go as how it came up and not trying to change it. But I saw the manipulation that had been happening for generations and generations in this film. And I saw the manipulation that's been happening for generations and generations in the world.
Got it.
And based on science, we have to know, based on science and the laws of the universe, we have to have a cure to every ailment that happens, right? And so we are getting the keys in our media to like what's going on, right? And so I feel like it's really important to just like look at that, you know, and you know, the book Cast, you know, I think, you know, reading that book and really understanding how our government set up things in certain ways to specifically oppress certain people just to have this hierarchy and power. And when systems are set up in that way, that's the thing, because you're looking at like the surface level versus the root cause. And we know in healing, we have to look at the root cause. We can't just look at the result. We can't just look at the war and the fighting. We have to look at the root cause of the fighting. And the root cause of the fighting is toxic systems of control, power, and manipulation. That's what it is. It's not just about one group and another group, because it's happening all over the world.
Correct.
It's about the root systems of oppression and control and manipulation. And unless we want to look there and change that, then we're missing the mark. Like, I don't get mad at anybody. Like, I mean, I have to like unfollow some people that I'm like, what the heck did you just pull? Oh my God. But I realize that you are the symptom of a toxic.
Correct. Exactly.
And so that's my answer to your question that you just said, like, how do we look at them? Like, look at the system underneath that's causing the symptoms of the people, right? It's the few people that are controlling massive amounts of people. That's how
I just dive deep under. I'm like, wow, this is not about these two parties. It's like something much deeper.
Yeah.
Oh God, I should have ended on a positive note. Like 20 minutes ago.
We can reel it back in. Let's reel it back in, y'all. Okay, so this is how our conversations go, and this is how I talk with my friends that want to go really deep. And at the end of the day, though, I think to bring it back, like when I go deep like this, and when I go down the Instagram realm and I see all the dark stuff, I bring it back to the breath. Deep inhale through the nose, and exhale through the mouth. So we go back to the respiration, we bring ourselves back to spirit, and we are love. And we're doing everything we can to be love and express love. That's why we're even having the podcast today. And nothing can change that. The systems can't change that. The war can't change that. Nothing can change the truth of this present moment, that we are in alignment with love and the good that is happening on the planet.
Yes.
We might scream about the bad stuff later.
Yeah.
But that's how you bring yourself back.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really important, because it can get heavy and it can get weighted, but you just bring yourself back every single time. And when you've gone down for so long, bring yourself back to the breath, ground in nature, breathe, journal, write, get it out. But we don't have to spiritually bypass. We don't have to not talk about it. So this is just like this unicorn rainbow podcast, right?
Yeah.
We can kind of dive deep, and then we can bring it back to the unicorn and rainbows, because I like some unicorns and rainbows, you know.
Totally.
But I also like the dark.
Yeah.
We
need the dark.
We need the dark, because that's when we
fertile ground for
and
awakening.
that's when we heal.
Yeah.
That is where we heal. We heal in the darkness. And so if we're not willing to look at the darkness, then we're not going to experience as much light.
A comfort zone is a cozy place to be, but nothing ever grows there. Thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Yes, it's been so incredible. Thank you so much for having me. Yay.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.